I have to share a miracle story with you guys, and if you have ever lost a house or are in the process of feeling like you may lose your house, foreclosure, bankruptcy, loss of job, we were devastated when we lost the family home. We all have those homes. For you, it may not be your family home, but it may be the grandmother's house. For me, it was my great-grandparents' house. I grew up as one of 4 girls to a single mother named Shirley. There's this town called Rockford, Illinois, and that's where I grew up, and we were struggling. I know that things in Chicago are tough, but there are some beautiful homes outside of Chicago in other parts of Illinois. We grew up in this town, in this house in Rockford, Illinois. My mother's grandparents' house was in a small little town. They call it the world's greatest little city. Its radio station is WGLC as well because it's considered the world's greatest little city. My parents' divorce was really tough and we went through a lot of things, but when things were ever rough, we would go to this house. I don't even remember the first time I came to this beautiful home in the world's greatest little city because I've been coming here my entire life. We've had Easters and Christmases and all the holidays all the way up until I started my own family. And it was so sad to lose this house. It was in our family for over 90 years. My great-grandparents, my great-grandmother, my great-grandparents, they bought this house in the year like 1910. They had 9 kids between the age of like newborn to 12. One of them was my grandmother. So for 90 years, family was in this house. We all moved away, but we spent our Christmases here, just like many people, you all have that family home where you spend your Christmas, where you spend your holidays. So many beautiful memories of this house. The oldest and the youngest child of the family never got married, and they stayed in this home till they were very, very old. They didn't have kids, and my mother was their niece. There was another niece that just made sure things were okay. When they got really old, they weren't able to sort of afford the home and they needed long-term care. After they passed, the house had to be sold to take care of their estate. My mom did not want to do that, but in the year 2000, they had to sell the house. My mother then started to age. And as my mother aged, she was just riddled with having to sell the family home because this was her sweet spot. This was her place of comfort. A major loss for the family, but it was something that family had to do. Actually, it was kind of mandated by their estate. So they lost the home. My mother started to get older, always was devastated about losing the home. When she started to have Alzheimer's, my mother would go every day just to look at the house, imagine that she was in the house. She was living with my sister in Georgia before she got so bad that she had to go into hospice. There actually was a time when she got in the car. She hadn't driven in 6 years, and now she was in Georgia rather than Illinois. She got in the car. We had a silver alert. She thought she was driving to Mendota. When she was in hospice and she started to feel really comfortable, she would say, "I'm so glad that I'm in Mendota, the world's greatest little city," because she thought she was in this town. But she never, ever got her family home back. She never got the grandparents' home back because somebody else was living there for 20 years. So unfortunately, my mother died in 2019. My mother passed away and we sang "Over the Rainbow," and look behind me. Can you guys see the rainbow? Look. There's a full rainbow there. And later in the year, in 2019, my sister and I decided to drive to the house and just stand in front of it, look at it, honor my mother, and just say a prayer in front of it. It was in September of 2019. I put my feet on the land, made a prayer, was like, "Thank you, God, for the land of our ancestors." I live in Florida. My sister lives in Georgia. We were just visiting. And then 2 weeks later, the house of my mother's dreams, the family home, the house has been here since the 1860s, but the family had owned it since the 1900s. It was available for sale. But it's not like we were dripping in cash and that I had ever really thought about buying it. But my sister and I wanted to see it again because we hadn't seen the house and been in the home of our childhood, because this was the home that we all loved the most. So we decided to do a walkthrough.
It looks so much smaller. Why does it look so small?
We took a walkthrough and so much of the house was preserved. So there used to be a wall here and a door there.
Is this original? Probably put this on.
It is.
on the wallpaper.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lord.
Old linoleum.
This is Hilda.
Yeah, I love this porch. I mean, granted, it needs like a crap load of work.
Like there were so many things that were still of my family's, like the National Geographic magazine.
These cabinets are original.
They got rid of the bar.
And look,
Holy
and there was
smokes.
some painting over there too, you can see. This sign talking about the Ranger Rick magazines, and it says this is supposed to go to the dump. The border, that old stove, that old sink, this sign on the wall.
A stove that was originally in the kitchen.
This looks like the original wood-burning stove right here. And
Come
I
down
think
here
it's
for your
still
laundry.
Deanna's.
In the basement, you can see the family's name is written on it.
All the old movies.
Zapf
Oh my God!
building, Zapf building. This was one of their original something or others. This box, this workbench, that sign, a picture of my cousin and my aunt and uncle, my grandmother's name on the wall, plus my uncle's names on the wall, these signs. Oh, it went on.
Deanna,
I'm sorry.
Picture. Yeah, this is all their stuff.
Wow, this
Okay.
is cool.
Yeah, this is Emil's workbench. Oh, yes! Yes!
What?
I thought it was on the other side. The wine cellar and the photo. This is
The
where
dark
he
room.
was- yes, this is the
And the-
dark
wait,
room.
What's that back there? It's the Halloween decoration. It looks really creepy. It's like
What is it?
it's a scarecrow.
This is where he developed all the film. There's still some stuff up here.
On the wall, and then she painted this, that, and that. It's so exciting to me. And on the laundry room door.
There were so many things that were there.
My family sort of has a mad crush on this because it was a classic in our family. I even called my cousin, was talking to my cousin Larry the other day, and he's like, oh my gosh, is that stove oven in the basement where Emil used to make steaks. This old painting of my great-great-grandfather's. That's an old shed that they used to put coal into, and then this garage is ginormous, has an entire loft area. And look at how cool the fences are, and that bird feeder was there when I was a kid. Look.
But they had listed the house way above what I wanted. It was devastating, and we're like, oh my gosh, the house, but the house felt like ours.
Ease up. So Ella is my grandmother. Of course, Eddie and Emil were also in the family.
And there was so much in it that was still ours. Even in the garage, there were, I mean, we found dishes, we found notes, we found a door with my aunt's paintings on the back and her writing things like, throw this out around Christmas time.
All those bottles. My Aunt Hilda writing here. Eddie and Emil, don't mess up, please. Hilda toiled days to get the junk in order. Oh, it says muss it up or clean it up.
And she hadn't been in the house in 20 years. Question was what to do. We have pictures from this house since the early 1900s and the family. This is the part of the video where I get a little deep. I just prayed and prayed, and I felt very strongly that this was an opportunity of a lifetime to be able to get a family home back. I prayed and prayed, months went by, I made offers. When my mother sold this house, she sold it for $65,000 in the year 2001. The house was listed for $125,000, and I couldn't pay that because we live somewhere else. This is our family respite house. This would be a whole different, like a second home, like a summer home, holiday home, a home for all of the cousins to come to. In January of that year, I made a really low offer. I said, okay, $65,000. They're like, no, absolutely not. Did an inspection. There was like 100 pages of repairs. And I was just like, okay, it's not going to happen. We were like, it's just not going to work. It's just going to work. On the anniversary date of my mother's death, it was like a year since her death, and probably 7 months since the house had been listed, I came back in after like my third lowball offer and offered again a $70,000 offer. and they took it. I didn't have much money for a down payment. There was $7,000 that I inherited from my mom, and I was able to take my mother's money and put it down on the down payment. It was like taking that inheritance and putting it back into her dream. I was able to buy back this amazing Victorian that still needs a lot of work, but there's so much in shape. I'm grateful that the other family didn't do much because the house looks pretty much the same. I started to make videos about the house about a year ago, and the videos did really well, but then when I wasn't here, I started to do history videos. So then in 7 months, I was able to build a YouTube channel from zero to currently 180,000 viewers and over 100 million views on my history content. But it all started because I wanted to document this house. So along with my history content, I am going to be vlogging about this house as well. It may seem out of context, but it's not, because there's so much history in this house, like the Spanish flu and Abraham Lincoln's funeral procession going in front of the house. There's so much, but it's a miracle. There are so many people I know who either are living in their family home or who would love to get it back. And I just want to say, just keep the faith, keep trying. We almost lost this house again, but I'm grateful that they took my offer because it's going to require a lot of investment. That's why I started the YouTube channel too, to see if we could start generating some interest and some money to be able to, redo some floors. There's a lot to do in the back, in the garage, and even within the house. Don't be discouraged. If you feel so strongly, or let's say you feel bad about losing a place or whatever, just really pray on it and understand that if you've had families in a territory for like years, like hundreds of years, you may have favor if it's God's will, obviously, but this has been the greatest joy of my life because my mother was the last person to put her hand on the doorknob and close it and give away the keys from our family. And then she passes away. And then when I closed on the house, it was the 95th anniversary date in 2020 of my grandparents getting married in this room, because my grandma was raised here. I walked into this door. I was the first one to open it back up for my family. And it took about an hour, and we started cleaning. And immediately after that hour, opening up windows, starting to clean, the house, it just felt like it always did. I'm just grateful. And if you want to declare something or claim something back for your ancestors, even for your family, just keep the faith. If you're in the middle of a foreclosure, I keep fighting to keep it. Figure out a way to make it work if you want to keep that home. Should be showing you all kinds of really fun things regarding this home. So please subscribe, like my video, like my shorts.